Hey everyone, this is Tom Salemi of DeviceTalks. I'm very happy to be here at 160 Studios. We're coming up on DeviceTalks Boston, and when this time comes, when spring arrives, when pitchers and catchers start reporting, we love to visit 160 Studios and our good friends at the Mullings Group, Joe Mullings and Holly Scott, to get a state of medtech. We're going to cover a few different categories, some things, some changes that we're seeing, some changes I'm wondering about, and I can't think of two better experts in the industry to get a sense of where we're headed in the new year and rolling into DeviceTalks Boston, which happens on April 30th and May 1st at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. Joe and Holly, it's great to have you at your studio again.
Great to have you, always, Tom. Thanks for coming.
That always comes out awkward. It's great to have you here where you work. It's great for me to be had here by you. But anyway, we're going to be covering a lot of topics here today. I think important ones, I think timely ones. We're seeing a lot of news over the last couple of weeks, including CEO changes, spin-outs. It seems like there's a whole realignment going in medtech. So let's just kind of work our way down the line, cover one at a time. Let's start with the state of the medtech CEO. I've got my questions here written. You can see the piece of paper on the desk. Along the list of CEO changes we've seen just over the past couple of years, most recent one being Joe Almeida retiring from Baxter. So is this sort of a recency bias perspective? In my point, the fact that I'm just counting down these CEO changes in my head, this is actually just a normal pace of changes? Or are we seeing sort of I guess a bolus of changes coming through for one reason or the other? Joe, you've been covering this for a good long time. Are we seeing a lot, or is this pretty typical?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So I think we're about to see a substantial ramping in this, and here's why. I think the environment right now, there's been a number of, Almeida, I hope first of all, Joe's okay, because that was sudden. So
Yeah.
First and foremost, I hope he's okay. And if he is, I just think that was a long time coming. Stock price has been struggling. Market cap has been down dramatically. And Baxter has found themselves where you're going to see a number of other companies stuck between technology and commodity and trying to define who they are. And if you're going to try and play both, you're going to end up losing because the dynamics of the market are changing quickly. The outside influences there, Tom, are we have just stepped into a new administration. The road ahead for public markets looks interesting in a positive way. I think shareholders and boards now are going to be a little more bold and say, you know what, it looks pretty clear ahead. The known is known. Let's clear the C-suite right now and start bringing in, because there is some clarity ahead, somebody who's more capable, potentially, of managing the organization. And you're going to have an issue here because you're comparing it against Lobo at Stryker, who's taken it from $25 billion to $150 billion since 2015. You got Mahoney at BSC, who's taken it from $10 billion to $155 billion since 2015. And you have Gary and Dave at Intuitive, who took it from $15 billion to $207 billion. So you're talking about 6x, 15x, 14x. So when you're comparing it to that, you're going to have a lot of potential casualties on the marketplace.
Holly, do you see the role of CEO changing? Do you see new skill sets? MedTech is changing. Technology is more important. Healthcare is more challenging. Nothing is like it was even 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. Has the role and responsibilities and the skill sets of large MedTech CEOs changed?
Yes, yes. It's a simple and resounding answer of yes. And part of that is because our industry has changed so dramatically with the influx of technology. That's sped up and changed the game. It is still a rigorous process to get a product to see the light of day, or now a service to see the light of day. But the influx of FDA cleared and approved devices that have some kind of tech orientation has skyrocketed in the last 5 years. So as we look at this new influx of technology, we have to have leadership that's much more agile and much more nimble in their thinking than ever before, and has a healthy balance of technology respect and appreciation, but not an over-index towards, while keeping feet on the ground. Like Joe pointed out a great point, that walk between commodity and innovation is a delicate one, and it's something that CEOs in today's time have to navigate well.
Absolutely. Joe, I mean, with medtech, you've got all of these regulated areas. I'm thinking back to Omar Ishrak, where he was sort of making the case for almost a services model that kind of really moved medtech into healthcare delivery to an extent, which added an additional complication. But going forward, are we going to see medtechs move more aggressively into innovative and therapeutic areas and away from the other areas you're talking about, the slow growth areas that you're talking about? And how does that change the role of being a CEO? Because that's a lot of unknowns there when you get into these areas.
Yeah, I don't think we move away from it. I think they're going to be more clearly defined at what business you're in. So the commodity business and that lower tech business is still a substantial base within medtech. But you have to decide which one you're in. So if you're going to be a company that's driven by R&D, then you've got to make some early bets on technologies, as Holly pointed out, that are generally PMA or 510K de novo driven in that digital side of things and that high-tech side. You've got to make a bet that sometimes is 5 to 10 years ahead of its time before it gets to market. So you've got time and you've got to make the right bet that the CEO has to do. Or you're a commodities company, or you're an acquisition organization and then has to contend with integration, proper vetting out of technology, making sure that you find the landmines, especially on the quality systems. And that's where we've seen companies like Medtronic get burned and Philips get burned with major issues on recalls and even lawsuits.
Right.
And so you've got to define, am I going to manage the integration with really good due diligence? Am I going to be an R&D company and then drive technology that way? Those are the two. You've got to play both of those pedals. The CEOs have to be in the appropriate spot. What I think we're seeing now is some CEOs are misaligned to where that organization now has to make a decision to go. And it's going to come out. And I think we're going to see, and probably before the end of Q2, 2 very large moves made on CEOs that are in top 5 to 7 medtech companies this year. And I just think it's been a long time coming.
Wow. Holly, last question to you, just from your startup perspective. We talk about CEOs sort of like we're watching a football game and we're talking about head coaches and it's talking about markets, but dealing with startups who are working and striving and trying to build something that's ultimately going to be probably part of these larger companies. How should they or how are they kind of looking at the top of the ocean, the surface of the ocean, and I guess preparing for these changes in CEOs? Is the change of these companies up top, and we're going to get into spin-offs and things like that in a moment. Is it felt down at the startup level, or do folks just generally keep their head down and stick to what they're focused on and not worry about all these changes up above?
Well, the million-dollar word there is focus, right? So when you have a startup and the focus is getting to revenue, right? That's number one priority, is how are we going to eventually make money here? And whether that's through an M&A deal or through getting a product eventually to commercialization, there's got to be leadership that's equipped to do it. And most of the CEO transition roles that we're hired for are looking for something different and looking for some kind of comparable experience and accomplishment that they can bring that to the organization. The challenge lies when the board is unclear about what success looks like, and that can be tricky in a young company. But agility, the 2 things that I see being strong and consistent are a CEO must come in and make swift and thorough decisions. And I say it in that order, swift and thorough, because some that come in and want to make thorough decisions don't last. The ability to move quickly with really limited information and create a path of operational efficiencies is hypercritical for these CEOs.
Excellent. All right. Well, there's a lot of changes coming, and it's going to be interesting to see what develops over the new year. Thanks for your thoughts on the state of the CEO.